Oh man, yesterday I was talking about how Canada is completely fallen, and then you take a look at stuff like this from an outlet that doesn't even know how to spell eagle correctly. Like, what are we doing? Canada is now going to have a pride season. I want to die inside. That will last 5 months instead of one. 1 month is far too long to let pride last. Yep, that's why this stuff is never going to end. Man, I just thought that June was going to be wild, but apparently we got from May till September. To municipal governments across Canada. Great. As Pride season, May through September, approaches. Now, okay, this is going to sound weird and odd, but I haven't really gone anywhere where I would see a local municipal branding or flags put up or anything like that. In a couple of adjacent neighborhoods, I've seen some really terrible watercolor pictures that got put up on light standards. They can't even sweep all of the grit off the sidewalks yet, but they make sure that they get, I don't know, some autistic kids painting on a sign. Great, wonderful, fantastic, waste of my money. But I haven't seen if there's any rainbow crap, but if I do, I'll be taking a picture of it and putting it out on Twitter because that shit is ridiculous. But egal, is it eagle? I don't know. It's just they should take this messaging and fly away with it. Hey, egal, Canada urges all municipalities to fly the pride flag at municipal buildings. The pride flag is a symbol of solidarity and support. No, it's capitulation. And I remember back in the day when you used to have an opponent, okay, once they conquered you completely, they'd raise their flag. But they're just asking nice this time, just like they said. We'd never charge anybody if you were going to misgender somebody. It would just be a common courtesy. Fantastic. So now it's just become way too obvious that this is just full court press indoctrination, that if you don't kneel to the altar of woke, you will eventually get chewed up and spit out. And somebody who's made their stance known on this one, it's Paul Stanley of Kiss. Now, full transparency, I love Kiss. Kiss is one of my favorite bands. It is one of... I vacillate between just a couple of different concerts, but it was one of the best musical experiences I ever had. Got to see Paul, got to see Gene, got to see, I don't know who they have there at a discount rate that's not Ace and Peter at this point in time, and Gene Simmons. While normally a conservative, has some absolutely bonkers ass takes when it comes to the jab, and then managed to collapse on stage recently. Funny how that shit finds a way of coming back around. But Paul Stanley put on a hell of a performance, and he still has pipes. And geez, when was that concert? Christ, that's coming up on 10 years at this point in time. But that shit was great. I got to hear God of Thunder in person. It was wonderful and fantastic. I can still remember the fire that was shooting through the arena and how hot it was. I got floor seats to Kiss because I'm fucking boss like that. But then we got Paul Stanley, seemingly unprompted. It's like, okay, Paul, it's the beginning of the month. Do you have anything that you want to say? Well, yes, I do. My thoughts are what I'm seeing. There's a big difference between teaching acceptance and normalizing and even encouraging participation in a lifestyle that confuses young children into questioning their sexual identification, and though some sort of game and their parents in some cases allow it, there are individuals who as adults may decide reassignment is their needed choice, but turning this into a game or parents normalizing it as some sort of natural alternative, or believing that because a little boy likes to play dress up in his sister's clothes or a girl in her brother's, we should lead them to step further down a path that's far from the innocence of what they are doing. With many children who have no real sense of sexuality or sexual experience caught up in the fun of using pronouns and saying what they identify as. Some adults mistakenly confuse teaching acceptance and normalizing and encouraging a situation that has been a struggle for those truly affected, and have turned it into a sad and dangerous fad. The entire reason I wanted to do this video, well, actually, I'm a big Kiss fan, but then at the same time, I also got to whip out my hack Paul Stanley impression, so that's fun. And even Dee Snider, who is a raging lunatic. What a fucking spurg this guy is. And if even he comes around on this, yeah, I don't know. I guess the old broken clock can be right twice a day. situation comes around. I don't have a D. Snyder impression, mostly because I can't fit my head up my ass as far as his is. You know what? There is a time for I feel pretty too. Glad my parents didn't jump to any rash conclusions. Well said, Paul Stanley. So he co-signs to this. And then, yes, you have the tranny defense force that's coming out and trying to cancel a 71-year-old man for just having a take that, yeah, we probably shouldn't be sexualizing kids. And their rationale is just, it's self-snitching at the highest accord. There's a difference between acceptance and normalizing. KISS co-founder Paul Stanley, 71, slams parents who confuse their children about gender identity, branding child sex changes as a sad and dangerous fad. I totally agree. Star Child's got it on this one. KISS co-founder Paul Stanley has criticized parents who he says confuse their children about sexuality and gender identity while branding child sex changes as a sad and dangerous fad. With a post titled My Thoughts on What I'm Seeing, we already went through this, who with Gene Simmons and Peter Criss and Ace Frehley, but, you know, cut them out of the band, but don't worry about that. More on that at a later date. Everybody has their own books where they just slander one another. Ace calls Paul a homosexual, and is it Peter Criss that said that Gene Simmons has herpes? I don't know, man. Like, the inner dynamics and shit about KISS is fucking hilarious, but Psycho Circus is great, and Destroyer is still like a all-time great, and Alive 1, 2, and 3 are some of the best live recordings that you're ever going to hear in your fucking life. So, you know what? Hey, KISS is great, and I'm not going to hear anything against that. There is a big difference between, yes, teaching acceptance and normalizing sexuality for children. Yeah, don't do that. He also warned against believing that because little boys like to play dress up like he does on stage. And, oh boy, yeah, that's going to play a lot into this. And it's like, does anybody remember the 90s where they took off the makeup and they were still the exact same? Fuck, they put out some good songs. Well, they had one good album, and then they were going to do a farewell tour in the 90s. Yeah, well, that worked out. Post on social media platform comes as debates about the controversial topic has raged across the United States, with several states weighing up laws that will either restrict or protect rights of transgender people. Oh, and recently there was something about Minnesota, or the Montana governor. He was one of the more recent. I got something on that coming up very, very shortly. I think that'll come out after this video comes out. So regardless, spoiler for like 10 seconds of a video I'm going to be doing in the future. But yeah, he signed a bill alongside many other places where, yeah, you can't mutilate kids. Probably a good bill that's out there, but it was also revealed recently, and in doing research for the topic that I'm covering here, also found out that he has a non-binary kid, and shout out to him for enforcing the will of the people of Montana, who overwhelmingly, yeah, don't want any of that stuff, not letting his own personal problems influence his ability to govern. Governor. But yes, within hours of his post on social media platform, it garnered millions and millions of views and prompted praise and backlash from users across the political spectrum. Supporter of Stanley's statements applauded him for posting it. Yeah, because didn't really stand to benefit from it and could have just kind of remained agnostic on the position. But yeah, shout out to him for being late to the party, and it's a fairly tepid temperature in the pool right now to jump in. You know, many other people have been more vociferous in it, and they were just a little bit closer to the front of the line. But we're glad you're here, Paul. Critics, however, oh boy, and here's the galaxy brain take, pointed out that the musician and his bandmates made their career wearing flamboyant makeup and clothing. Yeah. And you know what else they didn't do? Pretend that they were women at any point in time. They played dress up. They knew they were playing dress up. Everybody else knew that they were playing dress up. So did the critics just admit that all of this trans shit is just all theater? Big cell phone. Others referred to Stanley and KISS performing songs about sexualizing underage girls, such as the 1977 song Christine 16. Yeah, about a groupie who tries to get backstage, and then it's revealed that she's 16 years old. Like, you should probably know your KISS history. And what does KISS stand for? Well, if you're certain censorious type, it used to be the Knights in Satan's Service, even though it never stood for that at all whatsoever. It's not clear what prompted Stanley's post, reporting on his statement. Rolling Stone, ugh, God, those propagandists. Tell us more about the UVA rape hoax, you bunch of evil political actors. Wrote what was clear from his statement is that he had incorrectly conflated sexuality and gender identity. The way that it's taught in schools, though, how is it any different at all? And what's the whole gender identity crap? And it's inexorably combined because all of this stuff is in preferential light to determining what you ultimately want to do with your nether regions, which is not exactly something that a kid should be concerning themselves with. Just saying. That's why there's laws in place to not diddle kids, you weirdos. And the most damning indictment you could have for Kiss is a song that they published 55 years ago. Congratulations, 56 years ago? Christ almighty. Music Magazine pointed out, Rolling Stone hasn't been a music magazine in decades, but okay, that these develop independently and shared guidance outlined by Mayo Clinic. Fantastic. Wasn't Mayo Clinic also the same place that was telling you certain things about the jab? Fantastic. A non-profit American academic medical center. Fantastic. Appeal to authority. Still doesn't change the fact that that public schools are hiring drag queens in order to teach kids about gender expression. Make that one make sense. People communicate their gender to others through gender expression. This may be done through mannerisms, clothing, and hairstyles, the clinic explains on the website. Fantastic. Gender identity develops separately from sexual orientation. Really? People's sexual orientation is related to whom they're attracted to on a physical, emotional, and romantic basis. It's all feminine horseshit, but let's play their game for a second. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, okay, so your gender identity, which is always expressed by the language of the LGBTQ alphabet mafia, all couched in the language of love and acceptance that they want to use for purposes of indoctrination. And then you're telling me, oh, okay, but the sexual orientation part, you know, the pansexual, asexual, bugsexual, whatever the hell else is out there, that's the sexual orientation part. Great. Again, tell me, it's a differentiation without a difference. And Paul Stanley's like, listen, I put on makeup, but you guys are motherfucking weird. I can't handle any of this stuff. I just want to sing Beth and collect my paycheck and get the fuck out of here. But yo, man, knowing a thing or two about Kiss, you would have thought that they might have had a different take on this stuff. Like, hell, I was anticipating and thinking that we were more than likely going to get a Kiss-sponsored gender transition kit. Kiss-branded chest bindings. Oh, I'm sure that there's a dilator with a demon face on it. Like, come on, that just all sounds natural. So, it's very, very odd. And like they said, completely unprompted from Paul Stanley. But, hey, man, shout out to him. He already knows what time it is by throwing up that hand sign. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it and rock the fuck on.